What do we envision for 2024? Well, this is what we picture, that every believer who is a part of the church family is in a disciple-making relationship. That's what we picture. Now, you may already be in this kind of a relationship. You just wouldn't categorize it as a disciple-making relationship. That would be a big win just to say, oh, now I see this relationship as a disciple-making relationship. But every believer following Jesus is living out their God-given identity as a disciple maker. Again, the mission of our church is to make disciples, not to make converts, not to primarily make church members, volunteers, or attendees of our church. Discipleship might involve all those things, but the Apostle Paul says it goes so much deeper. I love this. If you have read any of the Apostle Paul's writing, when he writes to some younger leaders, he writes some stuff that is so profoundly insightful, it's life-changing. And Paul has written this. He said, "You've heard me teach these things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses." You've heard me teach these things. And that would be normally where you just stop. You've heard me teach these things. You know what I've been saying. But then he launches into something that is so profound. This has to resonate with us, and we have to wrestle with this. He goes on to say, teach these truths to other trustworthy people. You've heard me teach these, right? Yes, we have. Oh, Paul, they're so life-changing. Good. So go on and teach other trustworthy people. Oh, dang. Oh, dang. I was content being a consumer. I was content just being a fan boy. I was intent just kind of like reading all your material and following your YouTube channel. I was content just doing all that. But Paul doesn't stop there. Paul says, now, just like Jesus said, right? Whatever I've taught you, find trustworthy people and start passing it off, handing it off to them. And make sure that these trustworthy people will be able to pass them on to others. You see, Paul is already a disciple maker, and he's saying, when you belong to my church and when you are leading churches, you're going to take what you've learned and you're going to entrust them to trustworthy people. So there's three main categories of disciple-making relationship, real quick. Three main categories. Number one, life on life. Any disciple-making that goes on in the life of the church is going to happen, in my opinion, primarily life on life. It is a people process. Making disciples starts with opening our life to people so that those people can know our stories. They can find out our struggles so we can help each other live in everyday faith and everyday obedience, the everyday stuff of life. We help each other life on life. To be a disciple means that we willingly share our lives. Paul says, you remember when I was with you, I loved you so much that I didn't just share the gospel, but I shared with you my life as well. I was with you like a father is with his family, like a mother is with her family. So, this year, we envision every believer in a disciple-making relationship, and we'll take the time this year to define it. We'll take the time to describe how to do it, which is simply this: I do, then we do, and then you do it. I do it, we do it together, then you do it. And then we'll take, in this process, demonstrate it and then display it. So you'll get to see, you get to kind of picture it, you'll get to hear it, see it, experience it, live it, be trained. The second category of disciple-making relationship is life in community. You're here together enjoying an aspect of community. Now, honestly, you've listened to music that is worshipful before, right? And in your car. Where am I? I am a listen to music in my car, sometimes sing person. Where are you? Admit it. Come out. We've already seen you in the intersections anyway. Okay, now, I am going to be willing to bet, I'm going to be willing to challenge you that has some energy in the car by yourself. And that whatever energy that has, there's more energy in person among the church family on a Sunday morning. Is that true? If it isn't true, that's okay. You didn't hurt my feelings, but it could be. It is for a lot of us. It's true. Whatever energy I have doing my own thing on my own is multiplied severely. It's multiplied so much when I'm with other believers and we're doing life in community. And I want to say to you that that's not by coincidence. That God's designed us to celebrate who He is and to learn who He is in community. Making disciples requires the input. It requires the care, encouragement. It requires the gifting and strengths. I don't know about you, but when I'm sitting and I'm listening to our gifted musicians, Pastor Jonathan leading the band and kind of arranging and orchestrating the whole thing, and our singers, I often think to myself, thank God somebody has a gift of music. Thank God somebody has the gift to teach kids. Thank God somebody has the gift to administrate. Thank God somebody has the gift of making coffee. Sweet Jesus. Every Sunday morning. Thank God that people have a gift and they come strengthen and enrich our time together because they are gifted. Back when I was growing up, we used to say in the church, God just uses anyone who is willing. And over time, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that's not true, but I think He also uses anybody who's willing and also able. Right? Aren't you glad that your singing every Sunday morning is by someone who isn't just willing? Right? Because a lot of you are willing, I'm sure, right? Hey, if the church needs me. But could we also factor in, like, what about being able? Teaching the kids. Thank God for willing folks and able. Bringing insight and teaching and inspiration to the Scripture in helping us understand what it meant and what it means for us as God has revealed Himself to us. It comes through gifted, sometimes world-class teaching and preaching, right? Thank God that in community we get the strength. So in Beyond Sundays, we are in community in order to get below the surface. We enter community on Sunday. This is a good corporate setting, but this doesn't help us learn and grow in relationship with each other. It just isn't a good format. So instead, we do that in smaller groups. Some of you meet in Bible studies. Some of you meet in fight clubs. Some of you meet in CTC groups. All different ways in which we kind of take a bigger group and make it smaller and start to kind of live in community a little bit better with each other. Well, our vision for 2024 is a new training environment. A new environment where our church members are equipped and also empowered to make disciples. So that we don't just say to you, we ought to be about making disciples, but that your church leaders are able to kind of explain, talk, and walk through in a smaller community, in a more, I think, disciple-making environment where we say, I am being equipped and empowered to live on mission, to be actually a family of missionary servants. So we're envisioning a new environment where that happens, an additional environment to what we already have. And you might think of it this way. We have an environment where we get started on this called the Roots Track. Many of you have gone through that, you're all invited to go through that Roots Track that deals specifically with trust and treasure Jesus. But then there is a live and give and community aspect of disciple making, and there's also a go and show. And in a new environment that we could call something like Bloom, we tackle those two areas. Live and give in community, go and show Jesus. And in that environment, there you feel empowered and equipped, like, I can do this. I feel like I'm being trained. I feel like I am being held accountable. I believe I'm getting the vision for what this looked like. So new in 2024, members can expect to be trained through a Bloom Track, Live and Give, Go and Show. That'll be new for us. There is, really quick, one way in which we already are helping to do some equipping, and I'm not sure if you've come across this yet, but this, you know where Paul the Apostle says, these things I've taught you, teach others? We have created a format for some of you might be interested in this. We have a podcast format called Maturing in Manhood, where Pastor Jonathan and I, basically we approach men and we approach them via audio podcast, and here's where we're coming from. We basically say, we've learned some things, what if we just pass them on to whoever wants to listen? And it's conversational in its approach. But we were inspired by Paul writing to Titus, and he said, in the same way, encourage the young men to live wisely. And you yourself must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. So Paul tells Titus, hey, when you're among the church family, encourage the young men to live wisely. So JV and I said, let's take a modern approach, a tool of the podcast, and we release every couple of weeks, we release a new episode called Maturing in Manhood, and it's our attempt to help kind of be disciple makers in community, in using a tool that lets us do that. So in 2019, we invested in our disciple-making community. We invested, sacrificially gave, and invested together to build a kids space. And the idea behind the kids space was twofold. One of the ideas behind the kids space was to provide an environment where we could empower kids workers and parents to help teach kids, so that in that learning environment there could be smaller groups, there's gifted teachers, and in large part it's a space where kids can be learners and kids workers can be teachers. And we made a massive investment in that years ago, and we're looking forward to telling you about the progress on that mortgage tonight when we get together and report. So in 2024, we are going to invest in equipping our youth workers who are working with students, and we're going to create a space for them where they can spend more time with more of our student community in disciple-making relationships in a space located here by renovating that lower level, formerly the kids' space. So we're in the lower level, and the ETA on this is by the fall of this year, we'll start the work of renovating that space so that youth workers are equipped to develop deeper, more meaningful disciple-making relationships with students. And that will be a devoted space to gather our students for community building. The last category of disciple-making relationships is life on mission. Life on mission. Making disciples draws us into Jesus' mission, right? And sharing and showing the gospel. We do that with friends, with neighbors, with coworkers. We do that with teammates, classmates. Again, I like to call that our circles, people that God has brought into our lives, and now we have a circle of people that we know and we're acquaintances, or we have potential redemptive relationships with them. And our small group communities need to be equipped to live outwardly and to seek to make the gospel clear to others. And our small groups need to be kind of trained and encouraged to see themselves as a community who isn't just existing for their own selves, but who have a life on mission together. And we refer to this as go and show Jesus together. Go and show Jesus together. And what we envision for life on mission is those training environments where we are learning, getting equipped and empowered to be disciple makers. How does it look, right? We define it, we do it, we demonstrate it, and then display